Here we are again, the real dirt with Chip Baker. Wow, I know I've said it before, but it always seems so funny to say it that way. It was just, it's the way we developed it all. It's the real dirt with Chip Baker. That's me. I'm Chip Baker. And this is The Real Dirt. Thanks again for joining me again, guys. You're going to love today's episode. Today I have Jeff from Little Hill Cultivators out of Trinity County, California. Jeff is a longtime friend of mine, and we often have these great conversations on cannabis and economy and the business of cannabis all over the country. He's been on the show several times. And he's actually been to every single Real Dirt studio. He's been to the Molecule Studios in Humboldt County. He has been to the Denver Real Dirt Studios that's now defunct. This episode, we actually did it in one of our greenhouses with plants in full bloom. It was a great episode. You're going to hear some sounds of the chickens and the dogs and the people in the background, and we hope it sounds really good, but we get into so much stuff on this episode, probably going to have to be a two-parter. I mean, we talk about California versus Oklahoma and regulations. We hear Jeff's opinion on Oklahoma. We talk specifically about drip irrigation and different types of flower manipulation. We talk about autoflowers. We talk about some current genetics that he's running in California. It's just a great all-together episode. I know you're going to love it. We will have to make this one a two-parter, though, man. It is definitely a great one for it, though. So sit back and fire one up for this next episode of El Jefe, Oklahoma. Welcome to The Real Dirt once again. Here you are, today's special guest on The Real Dirt, Jefe from Little Hill. Say hello, Jefe.
How's it going, folks?
Jefe's been featured numerous times on The Real Dirt. However, mostly it's been via telephone, right? No, we've only had one telephone.
One Skype.
Yeah. Right.
This spring.
Skype. But then you visited The Real Dirt in the Real Dirt Studios in Denver.
Yep.
Yeah, and now, today, we are in a greenhouse full of ganja. It's the new Real Dirt Studios. What do you think?
I like this one. Surrounded by plants.
It's definitely an improvement, huh?
Roosters in the background. Kind of like that better than the pitter-patter of Humboldt rain. That was one of our sessions.
That's right. Yo, you had a Humboldt session, too. You've been at every Real Dirt studio now.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're one of my most frequent guests now also with this episode. So we're here in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has become the new hotbed of cannabis growing, ganja growing specifically in the country. It's actually easier to get a license to grow ganja here than it is to grow hemp. Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it?
It's interesting how the most progressive state was only a few years ago one of the worst states to get caught with ganja in.
Yep. I think part of the attitude is anti-regulations, and when they adopted medical cannabis, it seems like those values held over to cannabis.
Yeah, it's definitely a business first state. If you would describe the political climate here, many people describe it as a red state, but it's actually fixing to be a green state. No, but it's very libertarian in ideology. There's little regulations for good or for bad here in Oklahoma, no matter what you're doing. Oil and gas, building homes, building multi-tenant units in unincorporated areas. It's definitely not like California or Colorado in that respect.
It's the polar opposite of California.
In many ways, it is the polar opposite of California as far as the regulations are concerned.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Jeff here, he operates Little Hill Farms in Trinity County. Longtime medical cannabis grower, adult use cannabis grower, and has been through one of the most strictest regulatory systems in the country and survived. Let's everybody give a little clap for Little Hill here. Hey, what is your official designation?
As far as
Your Little Hill
Cultivators
Cultivators on
is the
Instagram.
DBA.
That's the DBA, and it is the Instagram as well.
It is the Instagram as well.
You can follow.
You can contact me on there. I run my own account. I don't have a team, as they say, air quotes. I don't have a team. You could talk to me directly if you wanted.
Yeah, and hey, always feel free to drop any of my guests a line when they shout out their Instagram, their Facebook account. They actually do want to hear from you, as we here at The Real Dirt want to hear from you as well. If you've got an idea about a story or a complaint, or we really like it when people tell us we're doing a great job. Yeah, just drop us a line on Messenger, on Instagram DM, Facebook Messenger, and yeah, we'd love to talk to you. I do have a team. Let me give a shout out to my team. Travis Crane Style, is in charge of pretty much all the social media stuff associated with Real Dirt and Cultivate Colorado and Growers Potting Soil. Shout out to Travis. Chris is our editor. Christopher. Oh, I'm so bad with names, man. Isn't that embarrassing? I've been working with Christopher for a couple of years, and I can't quite place his name. Anyway, Christopher is our editor here. David Phipps. David Phipps also developed our theme music and is a constant consultant for style. That's David Phipps of STS9. I'm going to have to give a big shout out to the rest of my team, which are my listeners here, the people who give me their time and listen to the Real Dirt podcast.
Well, I need to give a shout out to my crew then.
No, I'm sorry. It's not that type of show.
Darren and Mike.
How many people you got on your crew?
Basically two.
Darren and Mike. Give it up to Darren and Mike.
Best dudes, best grow joes.
Best grow joes ever. Awesome.
Couldn't do anything without them. And I appreciate them. And treat your workers well. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely, man. You're nothing without the people you work with.
Yep.
That's for sure. No matter how big or small you are, you're not anything without the people you work with. So, hey, man, we've had just a little boring conversation here, but let's get right into it. So you came to visit our second harvest here in Oklahoma. We set up cannabis cultivation here in Oklahoma. We had an outdoor, and then we've got 7,000 square feet of hoop house right here. Asked Jeff to come over here and tell me what I was doing wrong. So let's just start at the beginning, Jeff, and tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Oh, I think it looks pretty good for as late as you got in.
Yeah, this is a September 3rd planning.
It's tough to walk into somebody else's operation because they have their own ideas and schemes, and it's never how you would do it, but at the same time, you don't know all the details that forced them to do what they did.
Good point.
I like a lot of things about it. Setting up on the cheap, figuring out how to do it as low as cost possible, I think is wise.
Yeah, and we did do that here. This hoop we're in a series of hoops that we bent here with our key grow joes, Foxy and Wyatt, Keith and Wyatt, and my wife Jessica and myself. We bent all these hoops. They're just steel poles. You get a simple hoop bender and bend them.
You got your irrigation set up well?
Yeah, that's a Netafim product.
That's one thing I always look at is how other people are doing their irrigation, and usually my come to the conclusion that I'm doing it better. So,
Okay, so just let's describe this irrigation here, since drip irrigation is the number one conversation I have.
It looks like you got 2 1-gallon-an-hour drippers in each 5-gallon pot?
In each 5-gallon pot.
And one in what size are those?
Those are 3 gallons.
And one in the 3s.
And one in the 3s, yep. And that's Netafim drip irrigation. We use the pre-made 1-gallon whips with stakes. So it's really easy to install.
Yeah, quick setup, not a lot of hole punching. I like that. I like that aspect of it.
Yep. And then we're using their antibacterial 3/4-inch supply line.
So that is kind of the Gucci stuff to have.
This is Gucci, bro.
It's the good stuff.
This is the good stuff. It's also, man, drip's so cheap, man. It's really inexpensive. Right. I think I don't know. I bet we're probably about $1.50 a plant.
Yeah.
To put it in.
Wow. Well, I guess the way I would do it would be a little bit more expensive than that, but
all right. Well, how would you do this?
So I like sprayers.
Oh yeah,
And
totally.
I use those down sprayers from Dripworks, and they spray maybe eight or 12 streams in a circle,
Sure.
and you can kind of just adjust their height and their pressure for how far you want them to spray, how big a diameter a circle spray you want. And the downside to that is you have to cut your irrigation off into more zones because you're flowing more water than a dripper is, which definitely adds to price and possibly complications with timers and whatnot, since you're going to have a whole lot of valves.
Well, I actually prefer the sprayers, the 3.5 gallon and the 6.5 gallon sprayers. What size you
I
have?
think I run the smaller. I think I run the black ones, so I think that's the smaller.
I'm a Netafim guy, and your DripWorks is local to you, so you
Right.
use DripWorks. But I like the 3.5 and the 6.5 gallon sprayers from Netafim. They come in these same pre-made whips. You don't have to put anything together. Don't have any moving parts.
Nope.
I do prefer those, but I actually didn't use those here because of exactly what you said. I have some simple battery powered solenoid timers here, and I wanted to be able to run the whole garden in one zone, which actually didn't work, and I had to break it into two different zones. And that's why I chose these 1 gallon drippers instead of the sprayers. But I prefer the sprayers too.
In a perfect world.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to do with
Hey,
what
back to that conversation.
what you
I don't
got.
know why you made that decision when I come into someone's garden. I don't know why they made a decision.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And like that, this one was
Sometimes you're forced to do or change your plan, or you're
looking.
forced into something.
Yeah, because with the
other
sprayers,
reasons.
also you need timers that can do more than just 4 times a day if you're concerned about runoff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What type of timers do you?
Switch between Galcon and Hunter timers.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like the shop I buy my stuff from is always switching. I think I like the Galcons a little more. They seem to last 2 or 3 seasons as opposed to the Hunters, which last, maybe 1 or 2 seasons. So they're just outside sitting in the sun all day. It's a hard life. We take them in winter, but
you have sprayers, right? You have runoff.
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot. So so your spray times are short.
I think somewhere around 12 minutes is a gallon for us in a zone.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you spray like that at 12 minutes.
12 minutes is a gallon, and we usually do that twice a day or twice. We like to water 2 gallons, so we do that. We'll do it twice. We'll run a cycle twice.
And you're in 10 gallon or
20 gallons?
20 gallon pots. 20 gallon pots.
Not a whole lot of runoff. Sometimes you'll see some, but generally we're not trying to see it. Not trying to flush much out of the soil. I want to keep it in there.
Yeah, totally. You can see in this garden that's been one of my problems. I've had over runoff. That's why the ground's a little muddy here and just drying out. And that's also why the plants are slightly yellow to the extreme runoff we've had here. I haven't been able to keep the nutrition in here. We've been trying to we this is mostly an organic crop, organish. I've supplemented it twice with synthetic product. It's going to be some fine smoke, that's for sure. But, also you look at it and you're like, oh, it's not like bright green.
Some of them, it varies a little strain to strain. I think it's a good reason,
that's true.
Good argument for more zones is you can
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
put a strain on a zone and water it how it needs it as opposed to hitting your whole garden at once.
Well, yeah, you can see those ones up front, the small pots and the 3 gallon pot and the 3 gallon ones. Like they're pretty good. They're much greener than these.
Oh.
They're in 5 gals, and the buds look great. And also, my experience is that I don't see enough yellowing gardens towards the end of flower either.
You definitely want to make sure that plant's metabolizing all those extra nutrients it's stored, or else you're going to end up trying to smoke that, and it's gonna kill the flavor, maybe hurt the burn quality.
Yeah, where are you on flushing?
I run 2 crops out of a 20-gallon pot. We might top dress a couple of times.
Oh, so you're just water the whole time?
Pretty much just water, besides
totally.
some compost tea. If I have to liquid feed, I have some organic.
So you don't flush?
I don't want to say I don't flush. Sometimes I think the plants need it the last 2 weeks to flush out the available nutrients.
Is it the first run or the second run where you feel like
the first run?
It's always the first run. Right?
Give the zone a flush maybe 2 weeks before. It helps them yellow out. You're just flushing out what's soluble. You're not going to flush out, other stuff that's in there, and it'll become available later for that second run. And I do get a good yellowing off. I think the plant knows for some reason that it needs to stop wasting time uptaking nutrients. it just seems to flush itself if you let the plant just run its natural course, and it'll dictate what it wants to take up rather than forcing certain things synthetic wise into the plant.
No, you're right. The plant does take up what it needs. However, you're pretty strictly organic, right?
Pretty strictly.
Pretty strictly. What do
Yeah.
you use? Do you use anything that's inorganic or
Um,
inorganic?
hey, I don't
Anything
know.
that's not certified organic fertilizer by some agency?
I don't believe so. Though I'd have to check a little harder. I know once the organic regulations come out with the CDFA, which they're working on a comparable to organic program, I'm definitely looking to abide by that and get certified. Something I've wanted for quite a while.
Yeah, totally. Well, this is our grower's high porosity soil, and it has a calcium nitrate in it that's not organic, right? But it
Yeah,
also has lime and gypsum. But calcium nitrate just man, it just makes cocoa happen,
you're right.
right? It really does. And then we use the GeoFlora product from GeoPlanters, their organic top dress. Have we
Okay.
talked about this?
I don't know.
You should check this out, man.
Maybe.
It's not a dust product. It's a granulated product, so it's really safe for your employees.
Yeah, keeping the dust
You
down would
know,
be a nice thing.
right? And it actually works pretty good. I think their application rate is a little off. I think you should, they've got like so many ounces per gallons of soil or per cubic foot of soil, and they want you to do it every 2 weeks. I think I probably get as much in there as I could as possible at the beginning is the better way for me to do it.
Yes, give it more time to break down.
Yeah, give it more time to break down. But it's real low application rate, and we really literally just put a handful on all these plants, right? And then they got 2 synthetic fertilizations,
And do
right?
you think the
Or
top
one so
dress?
far. One so far.
Do you think the top dress is able to get washed into the soil through
Well,
by the drippers?
No, we hand water it in.
Oh, gotcha,
We hand water it in.
gotcha.
Totally. So we initially all these, this is 1,000 plants or something. They were all in one shade house, and we were hand watering them. And so we just top dressed them when we
Gotcha.
pulled them out, hand watered them in. No, and then we also top dressed them a few days ago, like at day 21. We're at day 30 now. Now we're going to give them a synthetic fertilization and then water after that.
They look like they want it. Some of them.
Yeah, well, when they go yellow or pale like this at this stage of flowering, there's no going back.
Right.
Right, you just got to go forward. But the buds look great.
The buds are developing fine.
I mean, they definitely are. Man, this purple punch over here just looks incredible for 4 weeks.
She's a pretty plant. Yeah, they're definitely well developed for 4 weeks.
I don't say I necessarily have a method, but in containers like small containers like this, that synthetic fertilizer definitely works. Organics and living soil, these smaller containers don't work as well. We were talking about this earlier when we were talking about teaming with nutrients, right?
Teaming with microbes.
Teaming with
with
microbes.
nutrients.
Yeah, great books.
Yep.
If you haven't read them, you should read them. Teaming with microbes, teaming with nutrients. There's some great graphs and diagrams that really explain a lot of soil science to the lay people, the beginning farmer. There's a great one in there with a barrel and nutrient consumption. One of the first few pages that details how your nutrient uptake is limited by your availability of your nutrients.
Right.
Right. That if you're off on one nutrient, then you could be, just because you don't have enough availability of that one nutrient, it might inhibit your availability of other stuff as well.
Right.
It's a great little chart.
Yeah, you're only going to get so big and so fast and so healthy with first start with your macronutrients. Make sure those are there, mainly nitrogen. And then as you go up, your plant's going to be growing faster, yielding more, until you can just eliminate all those, all the limiting factors nutrient wise.
Right.
And then after that, we were saying container size is going to be your biggest limiting factor.
I think the 20-gallon size that you're using is about the perfect size, 15s and 20s.
Yeah,
right?
I mean 20. and I'd say it's like maybe slightly on the small side, but
Oh, really? Are you shooting for half-pound plants in those?
I'm shooting for half-pound plants, and I don't necessarily always get there, but I get close.
That's because
You know,
you need to veg more.
spacing, veg time, all
Yeah.
these things. I mean, veg time's a killer.
Right. In California, the regulations on all the square footage makes it difficult with the vegging.
Yeah, I mean, you have a square footage limitation, and you can grow any way you want, any plant numbers you want. And I run pretty low plant numbers in my greenhouses comparatively to other folks.
I know. I'm always more. You always
Sure,
less
and I'm
less.
just like, man, I can't produce 1,000 cuts of greenhouse. I just can't do it. With the nurseries coming online, it's going to become a little bit easier to reach those clone counts. But not having a mother room and being regulated and following regulations has definitely made some challenges, and still waiting on some things to get built out.
Yeah, man. The regulations are great for growing cannabis here in Oklahoma. That's for sure. Well, ganja specifically, but even hemp, after you get through the application process, is fairly regulatory free.
Nice.
I don't think this is a bad thing. Many people want to regulate this industry to the death. Man, we have to have some sort of freedom to bend and flow, because this is a plant. This isn't a bakery, right? We can't. It's hard to do the same thing the exact same way every single time. Right. We talked about this the other day. It's like, you were like, man, my greenhouses yields vary widely.
Widely. Yeah.
And
season to season, strain to strain, good runs, bad runs, late runs, early runs.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to say this amount of square footage needs to yield this much, especially when your environment's not controlled and you're just running open hoop houses.
Yeah, right. So it's farming. Some years you get the canopy right, you get the hit the environment right, and it's impressive even at the yields here, man. And these hoops, we're off on maybe some of our plant count. We just put whatever plants we had in here. The one next door to us, I think seems to be spaced better. The one on the very front side, I think, is probably the most efficient with the numbers and the way it's packed in there. But 5 gallons to 3 gallons.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect point to take a break. Let's take a break.
These new episodes are made possible through some really awesome partnerships. We want to form long-term relationships with other entities who have similar goals. Thanks to Grower Soil, a line of soil and nutrients manufactured and developed right here in Colorado. Also, thanks to Cultivate Colorado, with 2 stores in the Denver metropolitan area. Cultivate has one of the largest selections of indoor horticultural equipment in the known universe. So stop by if you have any growing needs. Grow your dreams, cultivate your legend.
That's right, Real Dirt. It's the Real Dirt with Chip Baker. I'm going to have my guest today, Little Hill Cultivators, El Jefe. Hey, I want to thank Cultivate Colorado. If you are a fine supporter here of us at the Real Dirt, if you're interested in any hydroponic equipment, any indoor organic equipment in Oklahoma or Denver or throughout the known universe, because we do ship, check us out at cultivatecolorado.com, cultivateokc.com. Give any one of our stores a call, and we'd be glad to chat with you. No matter if you're a 1 lighter or 1,000 lighter, we probably will have a really great conversation. Stop by 10th and Meridian. That's 1101 North Meridian Avenue in Oklahoma City, or 6400 Stapleton in Denver, or 666 Bucktail in Denver, Colorado. A little promotional plug there. What do you think?
You got 3 stores in Colorado?
No, I got 2, but
2.
One's here. One address here.
There's one in OKC.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah, 3 stores. Man, I have a renewed vigor in the hydroponic industry coming here to Oklahoma.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's been great, man. I meet all these incredible farmers, incredible first timers, incredible old timers, imports, expats, all kinds here in Oklahoma that come into the shop and introduce themselves. I get to talk to them about their farms and their cannabis and what they're growing, hemp or ganja. Man, it's been really, really refreshing.
Nice. They're probably stoked to be free finally and be able to do what they're so paranoid and probably had so many sleepless nights doing, especially in Oklahoma. They can they can come out and talk about their passion and just not have to worry about, their whole life getting turned upside down because of a plant.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And there's so much just yearn for information here, and people want to talk and share. And sometimes it's a pain in the ass because we do operate a business and we've got multiple customers. And, I enjoy hearing the old time stories and the new time stories, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to have to run the business, and I can't just sit and chat, right?
Right.
About growing with the customers.
Man, well, I can. If you hit me on the DMs, I'll talk about growing all day.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, online it's a different story, and I have a few people to get back to right now, but just get so busy. Sorry, hey, if I haven't gotten back to you, I'll get back to you real quick. So what do you think so far about Oklahoma?
I got to tour around a little bit yesterday. It's flat. It's got a lot of dispensaries, man. I saw more dispensaries, and that's while driving, just noticed, than pretty much anywhere else I've been, because they were spread out. They can go anywhere. As long as I guess it's zoned right, they can't tell you can't set up there.
Exactly.
That's so refreshing to just, hey, I own this land. This is where my crop's going to be. I'm planting. You don't have to go get cleared by 50 different agencies, all with their hand out to set up shop.
Shout out to Fish and Game, Department of Natural
to the Water
Resources,
Board and Fish and Wildlife, and
shout out the water departments,
the planning departments
the
out
there.
Department, the Board of Soups, the planning commissions.
Thank you guys for keeping it regulated.
CDFA, and oh man, the list goes on.
Would you consider this a successful regulatory market?
I think it's really early, but you're talking Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of places in business, so I said possibly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The barrier to entry is low, and that's what's drawing people in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everybody's been complaining about in California is the barrier to entry is way too high. If you didn't already own land and have a bunch of money or just happen to be in the right situation, you're going to get left out.
It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up a legal operation for most people in California.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
And most people don't have that.
And maybe not just at once, but over time, because you keep paying for it.
Or they had a business going and they had to move it because of some regulation.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And they were already so I got to sell my property, which isn't valuable for growing legal ganja anymore. And I have to go buy one that is, which is going to be even more expensive. I'd say it's definitely drawn a lot of people out here, and I think more people. I know I have people waiting in California to hear about what I thought because they're thinking about coming out here because they're so frustrated with the limitations of California's regulated market.
They've restricted it slightly here recently in August for residency requirements. So now you have to, if you're not a resident of Oklahoma after August 23rd or something, you have to be here for a 2-year time period or some other little caveat. I forget, but it's basically if you used to live in Oklahoma and tried to move back, then you could do that. But or you just own 25% of the business, right? And that's the other way is you can come in, you own 25% of the business, and man, initially, we didn't get any hate at all from being outside of the community and non-Oklahomians. I mean, we got driver's license and taxes now. We're Okies, right? I always I don't believe in that locals only thing.
So it's kind of, yeah. I mean, that's always local communities always want to do that to maybe help out their own. But I guess it made sense if you got here sooner.
And that's okay if you got here sooner than everybody else. The real thing, though, is hey, man, I'm sorry if I'm going to hurt your feelings, guys. Ganja growers everywhere. But it's the arrogance and it's the ego that people get with ganja growing, right? It's the greed that happens when there's a small market and then it becomes a bigger market. In the smaller markets, the existing players, they don't have any competition. So anything they put out is great and their customers love them for it and say it's great. And then as the market gets bigger, if they don't, increase the quality of their product, increase their customer service, then they get pissy that regulatory environment or, somebody else down the street stole their customer and they were from Ohio or whatever it is. The fact of the matter is Oklahoma didn't have a previous large cannabis history, right? Ganja history. There's not as much of a ganja culture here as in other states. And Oklahoma needed that injection of intellect, experience, and capital to make their industry successful. And that's why the legislators made the initial rules only be 30 days so that people could come in here immediately from other states, inject millions of dollars into the economy immediately, because they knew that if it was just left up to Oklahomians, most of them wouldn't be successful. Most of them would have to start on a very small level. They wanted the industry to grow faster, right? And then once it grew faster, they shut the regulations down, right? And made it where you had to be a 2-year resident. And I think you should have some sort of barrier to entry. Don't get me wrong, but we're all Americans here, man. I don't think that any American should be shut out of any state to do any business. That's capitalism. I don't think there's any prerequisite for any other industry. Can you say of another industry where you have to be a quote unquote resident of the state?
No, there's no other industry like cannabis as far as regulations go. There's certainly no other agricultural crop that's been regulated. We wouldn't have any food in our grocery stores if anything was any agricultural crop was regulated like this.
You're 100% right. And people say, oh, alcohol. Well, alcohol is regulated, but not the crop.
Crop's
not regulated. I can go grow as much barley, hops, or grape as I want. That's unregulated. Right. And I know there's, technically, this is a different plant. The active constituents are, present in the plant very, very, very young. So I do see some sort of regulation, but man, it needs to be like tobacco used to be, kept small, 5 acres, 4 acres, whatever the small number is. That's how I would like to see the regulations go, right? Because they're going to, here in Oklahoma specifically, by allowing people to grow as much as they can, it's gonna flood the market
pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
Everybody's filling it out this year.
It's gonna flood the market,
and they're gonna blow it out next year.
It doesn't take that much. Man, I bet if we put our heads together and we went and grew 50 acres of ganja, that would be most of the needs for the state of Oklahoma by the patients. That would be for smoking quality. That's 100 acres. And I bet it's even smaller.
The price dips, the patients will smoke more.
Rarely does the price change to the patients.
Rarely.
It should, but rarely. Like in Colorado, it has a little bit, and in Oregon, it has a little bit. Has it in Washington?
I don't know about Washington. I could say
cheap in Oregon.
Not too much in California because of those added excise taxes.
Yeah, and it's expensive here, The taxes are 15% here.
Plus sales tax.
Fuck, that's something I should be more up on.
Yeah.
So you've seen some weed? We looked at some weed earlier today.
Yep.
Right? You're looking at some weed right now. What's your impression of the grow environment here? Let's start there.
Well, from what I've seen weather-wise, it's definitely possible to grow some weed out here.
Yeah.
I wasn't here all summer when it was 100 degrees, but
plants like it fine as long as you got the water. I think it just
comes down to the farmer knowing the plant and knowing the environment and just being ready to adjust as need be. That's farming.
Yeah.
And if you know the plant, you'll figure it out.
Yep. It's hot. It's windy. In many places, it's rainy and humid here. There's many, many microclimates.
Yeah.
I had somebody say to me when I moved here, it's like, oh, yeah, in California, you got all those microclimates. And, man, I think they're everywhere.
Right? They're everywhere.
Sure they're everywhere.
The topography is different over each hill.
Yeah, where we are here, we're on a ridge. There's a slight breeze. It is warmer, less humid than it is 60, 70 miles from here. If you go east, more rain, more humidity.
Yeah.
Man, honestly, we're at 40, 50% humidity most of the time.
Yeah.
Today, I think I walked out and it said 46% humidity and 41 degrees, so it was a little cool,
Oh, cool.
right? A few days ago, it was 91 and 50% humidity. Cannabis kind of loves that. Ganja loves that.
What's the potential for catastrophic crop loss due to weather during the summertime?
Oh man, I think that's reality for sure. And I mean, you've got all kinds. You've got infrastructure loss. Like, I mean, there are tornadoes here.
Tornadoes.
Tornadoes are real here, and the winds associated with tornadoes are real. And they might not call it a tornado because it's not like cycloning or funneling. But man, we windy as
Windy as hell.
bitch, dude.
Yeah.
Damn. Just like loss of infrastructure. I know, like, people lose fences, greenhouses, buildings, outbuildings in the severe weather. There is definitely lightning storms here. There's rainstorms. There's flooding. There was severe flooding here this summer in June. And that's kind of why we actually got on this place kind of late, is because it was flooding, and we wanted to make sure like the place we got wasn't flooded.
Didn't flood.
Right. And, we got that, man.
Sweet.
I mean, you see a little runoff here or there. So, you mentioned the word for the day is Grow Joe.
Grow Joe.
Let's explain a Grow Joe to our audience here.
I think they'd be your main dudes.
Your main dudes, your workers.
Yep.
Right? The Grow Joes are the growers, and they take instruction from the head grower, the head cultivator. Right?
Sure.
And then there's workers that work under the Grow Joe.
Yeah, definitely. The
Right.
Grow Joes more or less know your SOPs already.
Mid-level management.
Yeah. They do a lot of the hands-on stuff. They do a lot of the day-to-day stuff. They're good growers in themselves, and
Should be.
they should be. And they work with people well. They can direct people when you bring on, say, a few more temporary people for big work pushes.
Mm-hmm.
They can run those crews. They can, teach them all how you want things done. And it basically allows the head cultivator or the owner to run the business.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at my farm less now than I ever was before because I have to go. Well, first, my farm's remote, so it's a full day trip if I have to go anywhere. But if I got to run 2 hours to the county seat or 2 hours to distribution, that's basically a round trip wise. That's all day.
Yeah.
And then you factor in construction on the roads. It is a pain in the ass. I drive a lot, but that's what I have to do to run my business. Logistics, supplies. If I can't get it delivered, I got to go get it.
I mean, anybody who thinks they live in a remote location, Northern California is one of the most remote places in the country for sure. The distance between gas stations, stores, towns,
the time, the driving
drive
time is the distance.
the quality of the roads.
Yeah, I might be 15 miles away from a store, but man, it's still going to take me a half hour to get there.
Yeah, and you're pissing your neighbors off,
and that's
just down your dirt
just
road.
A mountain, general store. That's not Costco or a grow store. You're paying a premium if you just go to that mountain store.
And there's places like that all over the country. The sheer population that lives,
especially the summer population.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the California market, man. This is something we always talk about, and everybody predicted this total crash in the California market, except for Chip, and because I saw what was going on. And what was going on was the increased bureaucracy that was running out growers, as well as new interdiction tools that were shutting down private market or free market growers, and the push for hemp, all pushed for less weed to be grown in California this year.
Man, I didn't see it coming. But this early spring, even winter, February, March, there was basically no more weed to be bought or sold or transferred or however they do it. Really, both markets were like that. The reasons for it are interesting. I didn't see it coming, but I mean, there's several factors: the interdiction, the letters that were sent out, code
So
enforcement.
let's start right there with code enforcement. So for years and years and years, Humboldt, Mendocino, Trinity, rural California, they all struggled with getting people to come into compliance with building codes, especially like the extreme, earthquake building codes that we have in California. Right, and with the passage of the new legal cannabis in California, legal ganja in California, it allowed local governments to come in and say, "Hey, you're operating a business that's not in zoning compliance, and we're shutting you down." Right, and this actually worked to shut ganja growers down.
Pretty much. I mean, also the fact that you're operating a business and you don't have a business license now for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
So you had the opportunity to go legit and you haven't. So now we're shutting you down.
Right.
And they have.
Tell us what these letters look like. What are they?
I haven't gotten one myself, and I'm not in Humboldt, but basically.
I've gotten one.
Basically, you got one?
I got one.
You're not even growing.
I know, man. I had greenhouses we were building on.
Oh, they
this
sent
property.
one to everybody with a greenhouse.
Yeah, totally.
Even if they were empty, even if they had fruit trees in them.
Yeah, totally. And
that happened.
They tried to make us take it down, but like we're trying to get all these stuff permitted.
Sure.
And, so they realized we were doing. We were doing right.
We're in the
right.
We were working your way towards
working our way through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these letters look something like this: "Dear Mr. Jackass." Because that's how you feel when you get one of these letters, right? Like, you're operating a business that is not in compliance. You need to get this business into compliance within 10 days. And if you don't, then we're going to charge you $9,000 a day for 30 days. And then after 30 days, we're going to charge you $900,000 or put a lien against your property for $900,000. So it's best you contact us immediately.
Yeah. That gets expensive quick.
It does get expensive quick. And, in Humboldt, too, mail services rule. It can be days for overnight. It could easily take 10 days for you to get your mail, 20, 30 days for you to get your mail.
Or you just don't visit your post office box every day.
Yeah, exactly, because it's 30 miles away.
Yeah.
Right? 50 miles away, whatever it is. Yep. Right? When this happens and people shut down or shut down and move on, or some try to come into compliance.
Some might try and come into compliance. I think a lot of people got properties that are vacant, and that's also contributed to the market making a comeback, as there is just massively less weed grown.
Oh, man, in one of my old stomping grounds, I heard last year there were 40 letters sent out. I didn't even know there were 40 parcels that people lived at out on 8 Mile.
Yeah. Oh.
Right.
Yeah, I know a guy with a place out on 8 Mile. He got a letter from the water board and basically just told him, "Hey, man, I'm under 2,000 square feet. You don't have any jurisdiction." And they left him alone.
Oh, well, there we go.
His greenhouses are enclosed.
Yeah, stay back.
His square footage is under. He's not near any creeks.
Yeah, stay back. Well, he's one of the few. It's hard not to be in a creek, near a creek in Humboldt.
It's hard, yeah.
Right. Oregon, too. Oregon was a source of a ton of fucking weed.
Yeah, so that first year of legalization in Oregon brought down an absolute tidal wave. Now we know what the rest of the country felt like when Cali harvests and the flood moves east. Now we got a taste of our own medicine, because Oregon harvested and a tidal wave of cheap mid-grade to low-grade pot came down from Oregon because, well, there's reasons, but...
Well, tons of people moved up there that didn't really know what they were doing, but it was like a good opportunity.
And
then to grow it at scale, that's difficult to do. And
maybe a grower grew, 500 pounds, which is a good crop, but the next year they did an acre.
Mm-hmm. yeah, exactly.
Which was a whole lot more. Oh, and it collapsed the price 2-3 years ago.
All right, well, we kind of had a really good part one on that episode with Jeff from Little Hill Cultivators in Trinity County. We're going to get more into that episode next week on the part 2 of this episode. We really appreciate you joining us. We really appreciate you listening. Thank you for all the questions that you that you ask on our Instagram. Thank you for being involved with our social media, our Instagram, and The Real Dirt. Without you, there'd actually be zero reason to do this. So thank you so much. Join us again for another episode of The Real Dirt by downloading it on iTunes. Subscribe, please. Download all the episodes that you haven't heard. Some of them are great, some of them are better, some of them are good. We try not to put any bad ones out. Thank you for giving us your time, and yeah, we'll see you next week on this part 2 of El Jefe Visits Oklahoma.